guys, coming at you today with a recipe I promised you guys back in May, I believe, is when I tested this product for you in a weekly update. These Lily's raspberry white chocolate chips. I made a delicious white chocolate raspberry blondie with these guys. It was so delicious. This blondie recipe I've had for a while. The trick is that everything sinks in it. So you have to put everything on the top layer of the batter. Otherwise, it sinks all to the bottom. So you can literally make this blondie recipe any flavor you want, add whatever chips you want, and add-ins and stuff like that. So I will mention all that as we get into making this recipe. But this is a delicious keto white chocolate raspberry blondie. So let's get started. Now this recipe is very similar to my fudgy brownie recipe. It's the same thing, only I made it to being like basically a vanilla brownie. So you need 2 sticks of very soft butter. If your butter's not soft, like mine wasn't today, I put it in the microwave, 50% power, and it took about a minute. I kept stopping it and rotating the sticks, and it became nice and soft. It did get a little melty in some areas, but not too bad. Always make sure you have a spatula to scrape all the butter. Don't want to waste any of it. So you need 2 sticks. You also need 4 warm eggs, or room temperature eggs, which I need to get mine in some warm water because I just pulled them out. Failure to plan ahead today. I always use large eggs, and I always use salted butter. If you are new to the channel, welcome. But I always use salted butter because I hate buying 2 kinds because I go through it so fast. And I always end up not having the one I need at the time I need it. So all my recipes I just made with salted butter. To the butter we need allulose and powdered monk fruit. I kept the ratios the same for this as my chocolate brownie, but if you don't like sweet things, you might want to cut this down a tiny bit. Basically, I did a cup of powdered monk fruit erythritol and a cup of allulose. It makes a whole 9x13 pan, but it is quite a bit of sweetener, and there's no cocoa powder in this, so it's going to be sweeter than my brownie recipe. But I always weigh my ingredients. If you are new here, I always weigh, because I was telling people even this new powdered monk fruit erythritol blend I got seems to weigh more than the last one, like for the same amount. So I used to use one of these, and it used to be 30 grams for the Locanto powdered monk fruit sweetener. One of these for this, I think it's called So Nutritious or something like that. One of these is like 50 grams. So it depends on like how powdered your powdered sweetener is, how it measures. Same thing with the allulose. Allulose is kind of powdery. Some may be powdery than others. Some allulose might be clumpier, which would give you a different measurement also. It was 150 and it wasn't quite filled up all the way. So I always say to invest in a kitchen scale. I'll have this, not this one, but my favorite one linked below on my Amazon. I've had it forever. I used it for 2 years before I even got this one, 2 or 2.5 years, and I've never had a problem with it. So I definitely would recommend the one that I linked in the description box. I use the monk fruit erythritol just because I feel like it has a little bit less cooling effect than straight erythritol, but you can use straight erythritol if you want. The allulose keeps this brownie nice and moist. If you use all allulose, you'll probably have a mushy brownie mess. We're gonna whip this until it's super, super light and fluffy. While that is going, we're gonna measure all our dry ingredients, which isn't a lot at all. 37 grams of coconut flour, which is 1/4 cup plus 1 tablespoon. 1.5 tablespoons of xanthan gum, should be 6 grams, which it is. I went up to 6. Sift that, and then add, I have vanilla protein powder, which is 93 grams. It doesn't really sift, and there's no lumps in it. Scrape this down periodically. You see there's more yellowy stuff and then the real white. You want it all super white and pale. Not sure how many cups 93 grams is, so we'll go and do 1/3 of a cup. I just hate it because you don't know how packed it is. If I pack this down, it would weigh a lot more. So 1 cup not packed is about 80 grams. So 1.25 cups. 1 and 2 tablespoons. Whisk it all together, and that's it. Go dry. I want that xanthan gum evenly distributed. If you haven't already, go check out my jam recipe. This is my keto raspberry jam recipe. It's optional, you don't have to use it, but it adds a lot with just having the chocolate chips in there. So I'm using my jam, about 4 ounces worth. I don't know how to figure that out in the macros really. Like, I put 4 ounces of fresh raspberries. I weighed this 4 ounces. But, so there's a bunch of allulose in there too, so I don't know. I just put 4 ounces of raspberries in my macros, and then I did 3.5 ounces of Lily's chocolate chips. You can change the measurements you want, but just make sure you figure out your own macros, because I think it's 2 net carbs. Yeah, 2 net carbs for 1/2 ounce. So, unfortunately, cutting these into 12 gives you 3 net carbs per brownie because of these chips. I got those sat to the side already. Scrape this guy down one more time. We're gonna add some eggs to it. I gotta get mine in water, so I'm gonna do that now. While this is still going, it's pretty whipped up. The last ingredient that I'm putting in here is a little bit of raspberry extract, but if you've seen some of my other videos, I'm not a huge fan of the raspberry. It kind of tastes like cough syrup, a lot like the cherry. So I only use a tiny bit in there, and I also put vanilla. That'll be going in after the eggs. We are nice and fluffy. I'm gonna scrape down and add 1 egg at a time. Whipping it up like this, I think really eliminates a lot of the cooling effect of the erythritol. So that and the graininess, because our sweetener doesn't dissolve like regular sugar does. So the extra whipping definitely helps in those 2 things. For those of you who are new to my channel, I've said this multiple times in other videos, but I wanted to reiterate it here for you. To do eggs, if you're not very skilled at cracking and if you get shells in there, always use a separate container to crack into and then add 1 at a time into your bowl. And always have your garbage next to you. I haven't reiterated a lot lately with this channel. One of my main reasons for this channel is not just to bake keto and make keto recipes, but to teach people how to work smarter, that in turn making it less hard to bake and to get stuff done. The faster the better. I've spent my whole life in the restaurant business, and I would never have made it to being a sous chef if I wasn't fast in the kitchen. Because you can be good, you can make delicious recipes and stuff, but if you don't have the knowledge to make it go fast, to get prep done fast, to bake fast, to do this and that, you're never going to make it in the restaurant business. So you have to know how to work smart. My first culinary teacher told me that. Work smart, not hard. So, yes, I scrape down a lot, but it's like, it helps in the long run because you don't have to whip as much. You know, like, just little things here and there. The way I do it is like the easiest way to do it, the quickest. So while this was whipping, I was getting everything else ready. I can even get my pan ready. I didn't this time because I was doing other things, but I get everything done while that's whipping. I don't just wait and sit here for it to whip up. You know what I mean? So 2 more eggs into here and then the extracts. I just did a 1/2 tablespoon of each of those. Just do a full tablespoon of vanilla if you want. Oh, before I forget, preheat oven to 350. This is a convection too. I could do it on convect, 325 or even a little bit lower, but it's just easier to cook without convection for baking. It tends to bake more evenly that way, I find, depending on your stove. This one I found is a little hot on one side, so I don't like doing convect unless I absolutely have to. So scrape down one more time, and then we're going to add our dry ingredients to this. Okay, add in your dry ingredients. I can't really see what I'm doing, so that's why it might look a little messy on my side. Mix that up. I usually just take it off here and mix the rest by hand. All the batter, it's all counted in your macros, so you don't want to leave anything behind. Plus, it makes doing dishes easier. You don't have a bunch of batter on your So just mix the rest by hand, make sure it's all really well and mixed. I always say if you're gonna make something, make a big batch too, because like this takes a while to make, this raspberry jam, but if you make a bunch of it, you can freeze it. It stays forever in the fridge. I have some jam in there from like 6 months ago in my upstairs fridge. It's still good, so it lasts a while. So here's my 9x13. You don't have to spray this at all, but I like to, and I like to put parchment just because I like to lift it and cut it out of this pan. I do a little bit less than a half sheet of parchment. And then I put it down low here, and then I'll cut it off here. And so you don't really need this, but I like to have it. Just spread this all out. Try putting a little bit of batter down and then the jam and then batter on top. It made the jam sink and stick to the bottom of the parchment, and I had like holes in the bottom of my brownies. So that did not work. That's why I test all these recipes before I make them for you most of the time. Sometimes I'll put up a video where I'm experimenting, but then I always try and tell you the right way to do it. Your offset spatula, make sure you get it into all the corners nice and even. Any batter you get up here is gonna brown really dark because allulose browns. Okay, that's good. Now put in the raspberry jam. I didn't mean to put that big glob there. Didn't mean to do that. But I just kind of like swirl it in a little bit. Try not to get it on the edge because it will burn. Because allulose in my jam, you want some everywhere. But okay, like that. And then sprinkle your chocolate chips. Again, don't get these all the way to the edge because they burned on me. White chocolate tends to burn pretty easily. So, and then I kind of pat them down a little bit. Spread them out the best you can. We're gonna pop these into the oven for, I believe it's 18 to 20 minutes. I'm gonna have to double check that if I can find my little piece of paper, because every oven is different. So I don't remember what this one was exactly. See you back here when we grab it out of the oven. Okay, we have 2 minutes left and it is just about done. I'm gonna give it like 1 more minute. You do not want to overbake these. Just like my fudgy brownie recipe, if you overbake them, they will be dry. So you don't want to overbake these brownies. You want them just as they are set in the middle. Okay, I'm pulling these out. They are just set. They're no longer jiggly. Oh yeah. They are set. So that was like 19 minutes. See, everything sank, so it all should be like kind of in the middle-ish area, hopefully. We gotta let these cool, unfortunately, and then we can try them. Okay, the brownies have been cooling, so now it's time to cut and try these guys. Sorry if there's a bunch of noise in the background. We are getting a new gas line put in to start our construction on our addition. We had to move the gas line, so they're working on that now. I think we're pretty much unstuck from the sides, but we're gonna just do a little, just to make sure. Good, good, good. So these were in the refrigerator. Yay! See all that? They're stuck. Same thing will happen. It'll darken and crisp up on the edge if you get jam or chocolate chips there. So 12. So it's about 12 inches-ish, so 6. And then I always tend to make the outside ones a little bit bigger because sometimes I like to make them look really nice. Like, if you cook them right, they should be nice and soft in the middle. These aren't fully cooled probably all the way to the center either. Do this by 3, so it's like 2 3/4. Pretty close. It still sank, but it didn't get all messed up on the bottom. When I did the little bit on top and a little bit on bottom, this was all wet with jam on the bottom, so and some of it still stayed on top, as you can see. Same thing, some of the chips stayed on top too. Looks good. Super moist. Didn't overbake them. Gotta take some pictures and then we gotta try them. That one, some of the jam was stuck to the bottom. I figured out the muffin recipe so they don't sink, so now I gotta try and work on the brownie. Still delicious. This one's gonna be the best one. I love the middle pieces. Still really soft. Okay, it's time to try him. Now, I think he might be a little bit raw right here still, but I'd rather have it raw than overcooked because otherwise it's just gonna be dry. Keto baked goods, if you overcook them, they get dry. So, break this open. It's gonna be super moist and delicious. Looks so good. Let's save some of this. Look at this. This is my father-in-law's, one of his favorites that I make. So I made it and had him taste test it to make sure it was good. And he's been raving about them ever since. So I'm like, hey, I made your favorite. He's excited. He's like, can I try them? I'm like, I haven't finished my video yet. So he's waiting on them. Super soft, moist. You taste the raspberry, the white chocolate. So good. They're just so soft. They are pretty sweet, but that's the way I like them. So if you don't like super sweet, you might want to dial it back a tiny bit. You'll be able to cut probably both of them in half and still be fine with the texture. Super good. Hope you guys enjoy this recipe. It is delicious with this flavor. I'm sure it'll be delicious with strawberry white chocolate or blueberry lemon or just chocolate chip or pretty much anything you can think of. Let me know in the comments below what you guys come up with if you enjoyed this recipe and make it for yourself. Don't forget to check out my Amazon links and the blog link to the full recipe in the description box below. Thank you for subscribing. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And as always, I'll be back with many more keto dessert recipes. Bye guys.